So this was definitely planned for the 25th anniversary, right? Like that's there's just nothing like this was definitely planned for that and got delayed. Yeah, so hey guys.
Good job, Atlas.
Yeah, so I wonder how we should word this. So I guess from when I've uploaded this, Xbox has showed off a Persona 3 remake and a new Persona 5 spin-off, which is a tactics game.
It's going to be so funny if this is not at the Xbox showcase.
That would be hilarious. Anywho, we're recording this before that even happened.
Because some Atlas intern got fucked.
Yup, they definitely just uploaded like a Spanish translated like ad for this like early on Instagram. So, maybe some information about this has changed post the official announcement, but as far as we know, that's what we're talking about here. And both of these projects look freaking awesome.
I will say, before we dive into the games themselves, I do have my theory as to why this got leaked, which is I think some intern heard that the games were getting revealed at Summer Games Fest.
Oh no.
The first day happened, and they were like, oh, yeah, this is fine now, I can post it.
This is what happens when E3 gets canceled. I mean, okay, genuinely though, it was like 5 minutes after Summer Games Fest ended. Because like I from my experience, it was us sitting there like watching Summer Games Fest together, giving our reactions. It was all chill, and we were like, huh, okay, no Persona stuff, whatever. And I leave to like take a little breather, take a break. Like I'm like, yeah, I've called enough for the day. Immediate DM from you, just Adam, Persona. I'm like, don't mess with me. We just watched all of this. Don't lie to me, Walt. But yeah, so 2 whole other games. Definitely was planned for the year of Persona, which the year of Persona, like, had ports. Good for that. But, yeah, we have new stuff coming, which is friggin' awesome. And apparently, my reaction to this has basically just been, I can never get sick of P5. I keep saying that, like, there's a cutoff point where I'm like, it's whatever. Like, we can stop here. We could stop here, but, like...
I don't wanna.
I like this. I have a problem.
So I'll start by saying this, which is my hot take of I'm sure many, which is that as of right now, I am more excited for P5T than I am for P3 remake, for 2 reasons. One, it's coming out sooner, so I'm able to look forward to it more, and 2, it's red.
That's true.
5 in the title.
You're onto something here. I mean, like, genuinely, like, for me, in that sense, it's also the fact that ultimately P5T is something very new, very different. And the Persona 3 remake could, like, change up major things. Probably will gameplay-wise, but, like, story-wise, maybe it'll change some things. I hope nothing, like, major plot point-wise has changed. Maybe just some pacing stuff. But yeah, like, for me, P5T is just something new, something fresh. I mean, some people will argue, oh, it's just Persona 5 again. It's like, yeah, it's a separate video game, though. They made this.
Yeah, I'm sure I will play through P3 remake a lot, probably. But, like, I have played Persona 3 before.
Yeah.
So, like, P5T, it's like, this is new. Like, yeah, it's the Phantom Thieves, but, like, I really like the Phantom Thieves.
I guess,
a lot.
Do you want to talk about P5T first, then?
Yeah, I was thinking we start with P5T, because if we start with the P3 remake, there will be a massive drop in viewer retention.
Exactly. Yeah, so this game, as far as we know, based on the leaks, is Persona 5 Tactica. It'll probably just be Persona 5 Tactics when shown in English, but who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, this game has me really excited.
I love it.
Yeah, because, like, the first big thing that, like, immediately caught my eye is just the art style.
I love it. Like, I'll see when the full game comes out, but I might like this more than Q's look.
Well, because, okay, Persona Q, this is something I was thinking about, is Q has a gorgeous art style. I really love how it mixes, like, the Etrian Odyssey look with, like, classic Persona designs. But ultimately, they kind of have, like, the mascot suit problem, where they have the big ol' bulbous head, and they got tiny little limbs, which means that, like, they're not really designed to be all, like, all movement-based and action-y, which is, they're PNGs in Persona Q2. They don't really need to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like they've got like a bit smaller heads, still got the cartoony look, but like a lot like lankier, more expressive bodies. It feels like more like Sonic characters in a way, but like without the massive head. And I really like how they've implemented those. They don't look like I don't know if you agree with this. The actual like quality of the models, like aesthetically, kind of borders on like mobile game-ish. Like if they put this on a phone, I wouldn't be surprised. But I still think they look really, really nice and pretty.
Yeah, which, two things about the mobile game thing, because one is that when I first saw this, I was like, is this going to be on mobile? But then like I looked at more, I'm like, no, this is definitely like quality enough for a game console. And also two is like modern mobile games, like Genshin Impact runs on phones, so that's not really a detriment to a game if it looks like a mobile game.
Yeah, like, you know, I don't play it, but freaking like Honkai Star Rail or whatever, that game is very, very gorgeous.
Yeah.
So
P5X looks very pretty.
Yeah, like phones are very capable of playing like good stuff. So
phones are significantly more powerful than the Switch, and the Switch runs Strikers. So
yeah. But yeah, no, I love how this game looks. Friggin'
yeah.
This might be getting ahead of ourselves a bit, but like the 2D cutscenes they've showed, are again like it leans more to that like Q style-ish look, but like has its own different feel. Super expressive, super creative.
Yeah, which I will say, Q2's anime cutscenes are freaking beautiful.
Yeah,
like they're the best looking part of that game.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, I think the way this game looks is really nice.
Yeah, see, I'm just in brain rot hours still, so I think about Persona 5T, and immediately my brain goes into Joker leaping into the air, turning into a flag, which turns into the logo.
It's so cool.
It's such a dumb, stupid little creative thing, but I'm just sitting here like, brr.
Yeah. As is the case with like just a lot of stuff, like I love the fact that like Persona is really what I've discovered now between this Q2 and Strikers is that you can put P5 mechanics into any genre, just any of them, doesn't matter, and it'll be cool. Cause yeah, like just seeing like a tactics game with one more systems is really cool.
No, cause I like with how they've kind of shown like some of the like strategizing and how you place people around. Which for one thing, I'm surprised like we've seen like a decent bit of verticality with like Makoto launching people off of cliffs and stuff.
It reminds me a lot of Mario and Rabbids in that regard.
Yeah, and like I think even like you move around in sort of not like a freeform way, but similar to the first Mario and Rabbids, like you just kind of get to run around the grid. But yeah, there's sort of like a chain attack sort of thing, like from Xenoblade, where like you surround them with like a big old triangle and you do a crazy all-out attack. It's so cool. This game looks
really cool.
Like I know a lot of people wanted Persona 5 Arena. I wanted Persona 5 Arena. Stuff like that is always fun.
I still want Persona 5 Arena because they should make it.
Absolutely. That being said, I am always 100% down for Atlas trying new spin-off ideas, new ideas in general. Which it's really funny. Like Q2, I feel like doesn't really count in the same way because it's just like a direct sequel. In terms of actually just copying the old spin-offs they've done before, I guess there's P5 Dancing. Otherwise, like Strikers and Tactica are like completely different from what we got before.
Like for me, like yeah, because P5D it's a game, and like, but like with like Strikers was a completely new idea for a Persona spin-off, and like I think unless you are really big into fighting games, like I think it's pretty easy to say that Strikers is the best Persona spin-off, period.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, like I love just how cool and original that game was, to the point that like I don't even consider it a spin-off. I've said multiple times I consider Strikers to be the 7th mainline Persona game.
Which that is a big question then, because from what I've seen, I don't think it'll hit in that same way. But do you think that P5T is essentially P53?
That's what the T stands for.
Oh frick! I mean that was the joke, but like based on what we're seeing, like it could be essentially.
I don't know if I'll think that, because like this game definitely seems like it's taking place in like this other world. it definitely feels very like side adventure.
Yeah,
but, like
it even like that feel like of getting warped to essentially another world kind of calls back to the feel of Q.
Arena's story does it. Like,
yeah,
you know, that's part of what makes P5S feel like just a whole. Like, it is what makes it feel like Persona 5 2 is that it just is like it's just a continuation. You're still in that same world, but it's just bigger now, and you're going to more places, and there's more stuff happening in the world of Persona 5.
Well, yeah, because, like, original Persona 5, obviously, it's all in, like, Shibuya, just very centralized, that area in Tokyo. Then you have friggin', you know, P5 Strikers going all around Japan, the whole country. And then they're like, well, we don't feel like going to America. How do we up the stakes? Isekai.
Like, which, side note, if we do get Strikers 2, which I still want, then fucking, I would love if, like, I do think that's when they have to do the world travel for the concept.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess, like, yeah, like, with P5T, I guess one thing I want to bring up now is, like, the new character.
Mm-hmm.
I like her, but I also like, she's very clearly a part of a different group from this world who seems to be like their version of the Phantom Thieves.
I think they said in the trailer something like the Revolutionaries or something along those lines. It's a little muffled, but I might have misheard.
The Rebellion Corps, I think is what they're called.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And I think that's interesting because, yeah, like, you know, like with like any, like, I guess, like, not the core 8, you know, like Sumi's and Kichi, Sophie, which we'll get to them. They're all still, like, clearly Phantom Thief looking, you know, they all have the masks and stuff. Like, this new character doesn't have a mask. We didn't see her use a persona. So I'm curious what they might do with her and if she will have those things.
Which, it could be interesting giving us a party member who just doesn't have a persona. Or they could, you know, pull a Strikers again and just make it so they get one at the end and it's all crazy and cool and it's peak fiction.
There is also another character in the official art. I don't know anything about them. They aren't in the trailer, but they are there. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, they're floating around somewhere.
So yeah, maybe that will be the 10th party member in this game. Which, I guess, speaking of party members, I am curious how many people do you think you'll be able to control at once in this game?
I'm unsure because from what we've seen, I think we've only seen like 3 at a time?
Yeah, so we only saw 3 at a time as far as I can tell, but most of that was Joker, Morgana, and the new girl, so that could just be the tutorial. And like we saw like a bit of Ryuji and Makoto fighting, I think, or no, not even Ryuji, just on Makoto. So I if this game is like bigger in scale, maybe like it'll be like Fire Emblem, we'll be controlling every Phantom Thief. Maybe it will just be 3. Like there is the triple threat attack, so I wouldn't be too surprised by that.
My prediction I feel like 8 is a safe number, just like because it doesn't look like they're like super massive scale maps like something like Fire Emblem, but like there definitely seems to be a lot of different angles you can take things. I feel like 3 would be way too limiting for anything outside of an actual tutorial.
I mean that maybe, but at the same time, like, Mario & Rabbids is only 3 party members.
That is true, so. And that game does play really well, which, I mean, that does bring up an interesting question then, actually, because, yeah, Mario & Rabbids is much more focused on, like, smaller scale, like, bite-sized strategy segments, and maybe this fits something more like that?
I could definitely see it being like Mario & Rabbids, where you explore an overworld and get into fights RPG style. It is an RPG spin-off, after all.
That could be interesting, so maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Like, that's also how they put Persona 5 into a Muso, so yeah.
The other thing with, like, you know, how many people you can bring along, which this one is just pure speculation. I could be talking about, like, up my butt. There have been people who did get, like, some of the early predictions and leaks for this right, like, very right, did bring up things about possibly Persona 1 through 4 characters showing up in this, which that is a big claim, but if that's true, that's massive. And that is also a lot of characters.
That is all, like, okay. So my thing is, I never believe a Persona leaker until, like, unless it's some Atlas intern. I never believe a Persona leaker until I see it.
Yeah, always a grain of salt.
do you know how many times Persona 3 Remake was leaked over the past decade?
Yeah.
But, like, so there's that. My thing with that, and, like, you know, we'll see, but my thing with, like, if this game has other Persona characters in the rest of the series, my guess is if they are in this game, it might not be story relevant, given that I feel like that would be the selling point of this game. Like, right?
Yeah.
Like, they'd be in this trailer, they'd be in that art. Like, it wouldn't just, like, yeah, it'd still be called Persona 5, but it wouldn't just be the Phantom Thieves, right? Like, they didn't, like, when they announced Q2, like, when that game got its first actual trailer, like, they showed everyone.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that'd be really weird. I could see maybe this game getting, like, a lot of DLC and, like, a season pass type thing in that regard. Like, you know, Fire Emblem engaged in that.
Which, like, if they do DLC for that, like, I know Atlas has a very rocky history with DLC, but that would probably still be a much better incentive than almost any DLC they've done in, like, who knows how long. Like, that would actually be pretty big.
Adam, are you telling me that $15 for the Kasumi Yoshizawa costume pack was not incentive for you?
It's free now, so it can't be criticized anymore. Atlas has done it again.
I guess one of the, like, the last major things I want to bring up about P5T when it comes to, like, story, specifically, one of the big things criticized for Strikers is that it rehashes a lot from Persona 5.
Yeah.
Which I don't think it's as bad as a lot of detractors say it is. That game gets very original with its ideas in the second half.
It's definitely more of, like, a loose structural thing that you really only get in, like, the first 2 dungeons. And, like, I guess in, like, a literal sense, the final boss is, I guess, a repeat of the original final boss. Like, they are the same kind of entity, I agree.
Yeah, but like, with, yeah, so, like P5S, like, yeah, it rehashes some ideas, but, like, in general, like, I find it very funny. Like, the achievements do, like, the same thing with, like, the achievements being, like, named after deadly sins, and then after the 3rd dungeon, they give up.
Yeah.
So, which I think is really funny.
And that's the thing, like, you can't be like, it's a complete rehash. The 3rd dungeon is about Haru in a snow, like, kingdom. What do you... When did... What?
Yeah, like, there's that. There's, like the 4th jail onward are so different from, like, P5's actual story. So, like, my thing, though, is, like, I do hope this game does manage to be its own thing, because, like, right off the bat, pink shadow person in a castle. Yeah, I've seen it.
I was gonna say, like, this is, I guess okay, it's the 3rd, yeah, it's the 3rd first, like, dungeon we've had. I mean, presumably it's the 1st, but yeah, it's the 3rd of those that is literally just, like, a monarch. In Strikers, they were literally monarchs, but, you know, you have Kamoshida the king, Alice the queen, whatever the heck is going on with this lady. And then, yeah, they've all been pink.
and Baseball Man and X, don't forget that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They've all been pink.
Yeah, so
I don't think he's a king, but he is in a golf cart, so, like, I don't know. Ask him.
So that being said, like, there's definitely still, you know, even though it is, like, still, like, a castle, like, this game definitely isn't, like, just Alice or Kamoshida again, I don't think, because, like, there's, like, the whole, like, bright, like, white, like, wedding aesthetic.
Yeah, all of them lean into very different aesthetics, even for, like, you know, being a quote-unquote kingdom.
Yeah, so there was traditional cast, there was, like, the traditional, like, European castle, there was Alice in Wonderland, and now this one definitely is a bit more like Kamoshida's, but it's very much that, like, you know, like, wedding type look to it.
Yeah, it's leaning more into a much more, like, formal battleground, like, fortressy look, rather than just, like, the high castle.
Yeah, and also just in general, like, the idea of, like, bride military commander. That's awesome. I will also add, do I need to care about spoiling Persona 5 on your YouTube channel, of all places?
I think we're at a point where it's fine. If you guys are scared about getting spoiled for Persona 5, I don't know, screw you.
Yeah.
Yeah, just go, I guess. I don't know. Live your life.
What are you doing here? But I was gonna say, yeah, so something else that I like is that this game definitely takes place after P5 because Lavenza's in this game.
Yeah.
So that's good. I like...
Oh, that freaking Velvet Room is so good!
It looks so cool. I was gonna say, actually, we talked about this, the fact that it's very funny that a lot of Persona spin-offs, especially if they want to include Akechi, have to take place at the same time. Like,
Yeah.
if you actually look at the Persona 5 timeline, Size Palace, Mementos mission, and Q2 all happen in the span of like a week, which is hilarious.
And no, not P5 Dancing. P5 Dancing is after.
P5 Dancing is in limbo, and we don't talk about it.
Well, because all of these things happen in, like, they have to be in the span of, like, a week or less, where it's after Okumura's. It's late enough for Haru to not be in, like, a complete depressive state, but it's early enough for, like, Akechi to not be completely, like, screwing you over and you being full in, like, Psy Palace mode.
Yeah.
Such a funny timeline.
So I guess last thing to bring up about P5T, looking at my bullet points, I believe, is where as I wrote in my notes, where are my oompies? So Strikers didn't have Sumi for an obvious reason, for like development reasons.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate, but we did it.
I know people like are weird about this, but like Strikers is very obviously meant to work as a sequel to either Vanilla P5 or Royal. So anything that's going to directly spoil that or tie itself super strongly into the original, like in very specific ways, they try to avoid. It's meant to be very open. I think their specific wording is like, with any level of P5 knowledge, you could get into it. I don't recommend it as your first P5 game, but... Which,
I will say, I find it very funny. Like, they definitely do a good job of that, and it would not be hard in, like, a Strikers 2 to retcon Sumi into that story.
Yeah, well, that's what friggin' Arena did. Persona 4 Arena.
But what I think is very funny is the fact that at one point there's this bit where I think Haru says, like, can you imagine, like, a world where, like, you don't have, like, a choice and people just decide things for you? And I'm like, yeah, you lived it. Yeah. It happens.
Let's not talk about that.
But yeah, so I find it weird, though, with this game that Sumi's not in it. Maybe she gets introduced later, I hope. There is the possibility, like, okay, because I want Sophia and Zenkichi in this game. I get why they wouldn't be.
Yeah. For the first time sitting here praying for DLC, give me my fan. Because I love Sumi. Sumi is one of my favorite characters in fiction. Basically all the Phantom Thieves. It feels mean to her. I can live without Sumi being there. Zenkichi and Sophia feel so definitive as Phantom Thieves that it's really rough parting with them.
Yeah, like, I agree with you, but of course, because she is in the main game, Sumi not being here feels weirder.
It does.
But I do agree, I like Sophie and Zenkichi more. Also, Akechi got shot.
Spoilers for Persona 5. Akechi is debatably dead.
Yeah. So yeah, like, I really hope that... I hope Sumi gets it to be introduced into this game somewhere, and she's actually in the story.
Yeah.
Because I like her. And also put Sophie and Zenkichi in it, because I need my old man back. But yeah, I'm really excited for this game. Like, like I said, I am currently more excited for this game than I am for P3R.
Yeah, no, freaking talking about this makes me giddy.
I'm excited. It's Joker, Adam.
Okay, but you cut me off before. The freaking Velvet Room is sick. Like,
oh yeah, like I love that. I love that it's not just a prison again. I think that's great.
Okay, because one thing that like, and this might. Wait, what?
I was gonna say, this is a funny thing. It's like, yeah, the fusion mechanic is like, it's like visually like, like this like welding like.
Yeah, it's like a huge like smelt like, I can't smelting.
What the hell?
Smelting.
Is the what the hell is the fusion mistake gonna look like? What's she gonna?
Oh my gosh, she's gonna like spill over a thing of molten iron on everyone and like be running screaming.
Is this why Igor won't be in Persona 6?
maybe like because the actual fusion, like her like swing a hammer around. Is she just gonna bring out a chainsaw again against like the freaking thing? Like every single time, it's just the chainsaw.
I love
Lavenza. I wish they like. I wish she had a bit more time.
I'm glad she gets to be in 2 of the spin-offs now.
Yeah.
I love her. She's so oomphy.
Which I find funny with Strikers is like, the Velvet Room has to take a big backseat in that game because, again, if they're leaving it open for people, they really can't explain anything going on there in any meaningful way. They're just like, I'm Lavenza. Igor's gone. Don't think about it.
Yeah.
Blue Room, make your personas here.
Yeah. But yeah, do we have anything else to say about Tactics?
This persona, this Velvet Room isn't blue, and that's crazy.
That's crazy. You can't do that.
But yeah, no, like, I guess, like, small things. I just think random little things we've seen look awesome. I think all the cutscenes look sick. I think if that main girl is fighting with a flag, as far as we've seen, I think that's awesome.
I think it's like a spear flag.
Yeah. Evil Ryuji for like 2 seconds is spooky.
There's 2 evil Ryujis. There's the what? There's like the like brainwashed one by the first boss, but then there's like this other character that has like this creepy mask and it looks like it's Ryuji.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going. Ryuji's fucked.
Yeah.
What's happening?
They're making up for lost time because in Strikers they teased us with Evil Ryuji and we never got to fight them.
You ain't got to fight any of them except Joker. I got sad.
Yeah, that's peak fiction.
So yeah, P5T. We're its OnlyFans right now because everyone on Twitch is talking about Persona 3.
I agree. We are OnlyFans.
All right. if that's what you want to be.
Persona 3 Reload.
All right, so welcome to the most replay part of the video.
Yep.
Yeah, so
is blue
Persona 3 remake.
Okay.
Where do we want to start with this one?
Like, I guess full clarification because it does like give a good insight into us. Because me and you, we think very similarly. I feel like people listening can kind of get the idea. Is just we are 2 voices with a 1-track mind.
Yeah, we're a hive mind.
But yeah, Persona 3 Remake is something that I very much did not want. Not because I was like a purist for Persona 3 where I'm like, this game is perfect, I need it, I love it, don't touch it. I love that game, it's not perfect. It's also not the inverse where I'm like, I hate Persona 3, I don't want this to return, screw you. It's very much, I love P3, I think that game is perfectly playable as it is. It has its issues, but perfectly great game as is. But in terms of like if Atlas was going to put resources into a remake, I thought it was a way better idea to start with like preferably 1.
Yeah.
Because P1 would benefit so much from a proper remake like this.
Me and you made pretty much the same tweet 10 minutes apart.
Yeah.
Which was that like out of everything out of every like hot like every brought up like Persona project that Atlas could have done, P3 Remake was the one that interested me the least.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that could have interested me less on paper would have been a Persona 4 remake. Because I am that game's strongest hater.
I don't know. They do have the HD models from P4 Dancing. You never know. You know.
But yeah, like a P3 remake, I wasn't like against it. I would be excited for it if it happened. I would play it because Persona. But I would have preferred they remake P1.
Yeah.
That being said, me and you are both very excited for this video game.
I freaking love Persona. Yeah, but no, this game looks awesome. Like, it obviously, because P5T, I'm super excited for the game. I love it. It's definitely the lower budget title out of the 2.
Yeah.
This game looks like it is a new, proper, big budget Persona game.
So I'm trying to think like where like I'm like to start with this because like
there's a lot with it.
Yeah, there's a lot to like say about this 1-minute trailer. First of all, I think this game looks friggin' pretty, very pretty.
There's a lot of discourse between people who hate original P3, people who love original P3, whatever it is, saying they either love it and adore how this game looks and that it's perfect, or that it's doo-doo and ruined any potential value, and that the heart and soul of it's kind of like Persona without the heart if you think about it. No, but yeah, like there are people fighting a lot about how this game looks. I personally think like certain things.
I'm a dick rider.
Yes. I do think certain things could be improved a bit. Like, the big thing people have pointed out is the lighting, which I don't think looks bad. I don't think it looks bad. I think it looks, like, fine.
Like, honestly, like, to me, if this is the final lighting, it won't be the best looking game ever, but I'll be fine with it. Like, as long as the scenes that clearly aren't done in terms of lighting get that.
Yeah.
Which, that's not that hard to do. Like the scenes in the dorm, yeah, the lighting's not there yet. You could tell. And like
if this game released and it hit every single bullet mark for what would be like a perfect P3 remake, but the lighting is off, It's not going to murder my experience. I don't care.
Like,
it could look nicer. I agree, but it is fun.
And that's why the game's not coming out for almost a year.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so yeah, like, graphically, I really like how this game looks. It can get tweaked, which, you know, most games tend to look at least a little bit different from their first trailer. Like, even Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which those games are rough. As much as I like them, those games are rough.
Yeah.
There is at least a bit of an improvement between that first trailer and the final product we got.
For sure.
Like
most games have pretty big graphical enhancements between reveal and release, especially with this big of a time difference.
Like, I've seen some people saying it's like Atlas games always look the same from trailer 1 to final product. I'm like, that's not true. Go back and watch the first P5 trailers. Go back and watch like the Striker teaser reveal. Like, there's so Atlas games change. Like, if all video games change, like, from first trailer to final product, you know.
Ultimately, even if a reveal is meant to be a vertical slice and like give you a general idea of what's meant to be here, it still is a game in development. All that stuff is going to get polished. They don't especially like you look at something like combat. It's like they don't specifically uber polish the combat for one specific fight, and then they're like, all right, time to do the rest later. They bought it, guys. Like,
got them.
These games are still a work in progress. They're still being improved. As is, I think, lighting-wise, it looks fine. Everything else we've seen, I think looks freaking gorgeous.
Yeah, you want to use that as our transition to UI?
Yeah!
That
pause menu. UI. That pause menu. That pause menu.
Like, the pause menu is, like, phenomenal. Even aside from that, though, like, every bit of UI in this game I am in love with.
It is really cleaned up.
Here's okay, because this is another one of my notes. Like, a lot of people are saying it looks too much like P5, and I don't think those people know what P5 looks like.
Persona 5 is when motion graphic and style.
Like, is it taking cues from P5? Yeah, but P5 also took cues from Catherine and P4AU.
Oh yeah, so, no, most of this like visual aesthetic comes from Catherine if you actually look at it.
No, yeah, like, this has been a work in progress since, like, almost the PS2 era.
Like, nobody tell them, like, it's not like, you know, something like Yakuza Like a Dragon, where it's like, oh, wow, they took a lot of these, like, UI elements and design and, like, you know, certain social sim things. It's like, it's reminiscent of certain Persona things. No, this game is made by the same art team.
Yeah.
Like, this is how they've been doing things. It makes sense. They're not just, like, super scaling things back, which I get people wanting a super faithful remake, but I don't understand. This is more tangent-y for me. I personally don't understand the point of a remake if all it's trying to do is solely replicate the original without anything like interesting. It's okay if you think the new thing is inferior. That's fine. But changing it up is part of what makes a remake like valuable. Like it is a complete wasted opportunity otherwise.
Yeah, like there is a big difference between a full-on remake like this and Nocturne HD. Like, you know, like Nocturne HD, they put Nocturne in widescreen, gave it voice acting, and put it on the Switch. That's cool. You know, like that's cool. It's nice more people get to play it. This is a full reimagining of the game, and I like that it has its own identity compared to the original. But like, it's still Persona 3. Like, I saw this UI and I was like, that is Persona 3 to a T. It
is really nice how they capture it, because that was one thing I was admittedly worried about. I was like, people, which I guess people got upset regardless. But yeah, I was like, yeah, people will be very upset if Persona 3 Remake is just Persona 5 but blue. But it has a very like different feel. Like it still maintains that sort of like digitally, like more structured look. Like a lot of it is still like boxed and like listed out. But like a lot of the new stuff we see is leaning a lot further, like less into being like super flashy. Like you look at, you know, the original P5 pause menu, or a Wise shop, or even something like more recent like Strikers with Sophia's shop, which I am surprised that shop does not make my eyes bleed, considering like how that, like those colors mix. But besides that, like this is much more like, what's the word?
Blue.
What's blue? It's much less flashy. It's more.
It is. It's a vibe, is I guess the way I like. That's like
yeah. It's much more atmospheric. It's restrained. That's what I was thinking of.
Me when I can't think of the word I want, I just say vibe.
Yeah.
But like,
it's much more restrained. It's much more like leaning into the atmosphere and tone.
Like this is like kind of a weird thing to specifically hone in on. But like looking at like the two pause menus, like the ocean one for P3 and then like P5's one. Yo, P5's pause menu is Joker slapping the camera, like a really punchy sound effect, you know, like really like in your face.
Yeah, it's super high contrast as well. Like once you actually get on it, all the words are like the letters are completely misaligned and stuff, but still legible because that menu is awesome.
Yeah, and like there's all that. It has like this graffiti look to it. It feels very. It feels very in your face. To borrow something from YouTuber Scruffy, it's very booyah.
Yeah.
P3's like pause menu is, you know, protag man, like, you know, falling in from the top, you know, like diving into water. You know, you have like the really nice like animation off to the side of like the character portraits like bobbing in like they're in water. It's more like melancholy is not the right word, but like it's vibey, you know.
Like genuinely, it feels like I guess pun half intended, but it genuinely does feel like a wave of calm washing over you as you go through that. It's a very smooth transition. It's very spacious. It really leans into just that like that relaxing, deep thought, deep breath kind of feel, which again, like Persona 3's original pause menu, like. It's fine. It's good, like, for the time and, like, leaning into... Like, that was when Persona games, you know, started really experimenting with their UI. It's pretty. It's two blue shapes, but it's pretty. It has a look. This one feels like it is trying to recapture the tone that is evoked with the UI from before, but bringing it into... I don't know if the right word is a modern standard, but, like, Atlus's modern style and what they like to bring to that. It's not... And it's not as in the sense of it is being P5. It's Atlus. They make like crazy UI like this for all their games.
Yeah, like we said, Catherine had UI like this. P5 has P5 and all its spin-offs have UI like this. Soul Hackers 2, SMT5. Like this is just what Atlus games look like post PS3 era.
That's the thing. Like a lot of people are like, "Wow, it's trying to be Persona 5." I'm like, no, Atlus just makes really stylish, pretty games a lot of the time. Like Even something like SMT5, which is, you know, stuck on the Switch right now, and also that's the other game that's also in Unreal Engine, which I'm excited this is in Unreal and on a higher-end console. With that being said, SMT5 is, like, maybe the most gorgeous game Atlus has made to date. Just, like, graphically. It is really gorgeous, really stylized even within that. It's nice.
You've never played Jack Bros. Have you seen how red that game is?
Oh, frick, you're right. And it's in 3D.
That's crazy.
I think they need to go back to the Shadows to Red. They've been planning this from the very start.
But yeah, like I just do not understand so many of people's issues with P3's UI and its visual style. Like, you know, if this game comes out and it runs and looks like Cyberpunk, then I'll eat my words, I guess. Yeah. But I doubt it. Because I think the other reason people have little faith is because of the shoddy ports of Nocturne and P3P.
Yeah.
But it is worth mentioning Atlus didn't make those. Mm-hmm. Which you can criticize them for outsourcing it to a company who didn't give a shit. But, like, Atlus themselves make good video games.
It also helps to mention that, like, the thing that made P3P a shoddy port wasn't necessarily any coding or anything. It was because they just got lazy with the art assets and just used AI to upscale
and also it's P3P.
Yeah.
All right. So we've rambled for like 10 minutes about
just solely about talking about pause menus.
It's a Persona game. That's required.
So the video game.
All right. So before we dive into story, I do want to story and gameplay and all that. How much do we care about spoiling Persona 3 on your Persona channel?
You know, like. I will give an actual warning this time. If you guys don't want to hear P3 spoilers, you can leave here. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, kiss your wife or husband. Happy Pride Month. But yeah, get out of here.
They don't like you.
So Shinji gets shot in this game.
That's real. Yeah, so I guess like yeah, so I guess starting with like the story of P3. I think P3 is a game that I really love. And I think both as more time has gone on, as well as just seeing this game, be reminded of how much I like P3. My opinion of P3 is mostly gone. It's fluctuated. But
the parts from how I've kind of talked with you about it, it seems like the parts that you love go up in quality, and the parts that you dislike frustrate you more.
Yeah, so I really love the parts of P3 that I love are really good, and I feel like even if you, regardless of how much you like P3, I think a lot of people can agree on this, or at least understand where I'm coming from, which is from pretty much Shinji's death, or at least a little bit before Shinji's death onward, Persona 3 is non-stop peak fiction.
Yeah.
It is phenomenal storytelling. Almost every character is freaking great.
Almost.
The plot point, we'll get to it. The plot points are all really interesting. There's so many great twists and turns that just keep coming. And, you know, like, the atmosphere is, you know, so palpable that you could cut it with a knife. It's amazing. Everything before that is padded to fuck.
Okay, because P3 is very much a game that, like, to its benefit, snowballs. Like, that game snowballs hard. Once you get, like, a big enough push, it maintains that momentum so well. The problem is, you get the opening of that game, and they give you a pre-made snowball, and it's really cool. And then for the next 40 hours, you're rolling it on a grassy hill.
Yeah, because, the opening couple hours of Persona 3, although they can be slow at times, do a really good job of getting you interested, and that, the protagonist's awakening, I'm like avoiding calling him by his name. Minato's awakening is one of the best things in Persona, period.
Yeah.
It is maybe the best anime cutscene in this series, in my opinion. It is beautiful. It is incredible. It's intense. The sound design makes me want to fucking come. It's amazing. Like, after that, you don't do anything for a while. Like, I've said the way I've tended to describe, like, my thing with P3 is P3 for so long has one interesting character, and that's just Yukari.
Yeah.
Because none of the other characters really get much development. Once you get to the beach trip, it's like, okay, we're getting more of Mitsuru and see more of her relationship with, like, Yukari starting to change and seeing what she's like. And, you know, like, there's these hints at, like, what's going on with Akihiko and stuff like that, and that's really good. And then, you know, that kind of keeps going, but it's not really until, like I said, around Shinji's introduction that the game really starts to snowball and do a lot with these characters. Which, you know, compare that to, like... if Persona game pacing is weird, because Persona 4's pacing is so stop and go.
Yeah.
And then Persona 5's pacing it's the best game ever.
It's like non-stop with, like, a little dip in the middle. But then once you get past that dip, it, like, skyrockets.
Yeah, like, P5... And, like, even then, the issue with that part of P5 is not the pacing, it's the actual storytelling.
Yeah.
Like, P5 is still really well paced and keeps you engaged. P3 struggles with that, in part because of its structure with the full moon cycle. And also, because, like, I know a thing a lot of people like about P3 compared to other Persona games is the fact that, yeah, you get all the party members pretty early on, so you don't end up with a hard situation.
Which is really cool. I really like that.
Which is really cool, but it is kind of a bummer that basically none of those characters get development until you have everyone.
All I'm saying is, like, the movies are not perfect adaptations at all. I like a lot of what they do. Not perfect adaptations, don't replace the games. But there is a reason why the P3 movies, the first movie is the start of the game, the prologue. They get Fuka at the end. And then the second movie basically picks up midway through the game. Just, like, basically touring right near the halfway point.
Yeah, it gets pretty close to that, because the second game introduces
The second movie.
Or the second movie introduces basically everyone, right?
Yeah, it's... Because the second movie, I believe, ends with Shinji's death.
Yeah.
I think.
I'm trying to remember. Those movies, like, they're all, like, one big story, so they kind of blur together for me. Because I'm trying to remember, because, yeah, I think it ends with... You might.
We'll say yes for now. We'll say yes for now.
Sure, why not? Regardless, yeah, the P3 movie skips so much of the early game that it's kind of funny.
And It's because you
Go
don't
ahead.
really need... Like, I love the character development in P3. And that is something you ultimately do miss out in the movies because, you know, they're movies. They don't have that much time. But, like, the actual plot, for better and for worse, is very much going through the motions, just kind of being C's with no real grand, I guess, trajectory for a very long time.
Yeah, which that gets into another thing I have with P3, but we'll get to that in a minute. Because I was gonna say, yeah, because like with the P3 movies, I think it's very telling that they introduced Shinji in the first movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so I think restructuring bits of this game to make it flow a lot better, I think will be important.
Yeah.
And one thing I think that could help that wouldn't even really be like the story is, and I think they will do this, is give you at least some of the party member social links before the end of the game.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how soon you get those in portable, like how soon you get like Junpei and stuff, but yeah. Which I guess like we could go into like social links now.
Yeah, no, please give us male social links.
Yeah,
like that,
so
if they don't, that will be the most asinine decision of all time.
Yeah, like, it won't be a deal breaker because that's how the original was, but like it will be like, why are you doing this?
Okay.
Now,
because
that comes. Well, go ahead.
Well, cause I was gonna say one big thing with me is that one big thing that people like that again it kind of is a better and worse situation with P3 is, you know, P3's party member social links kind of take a back seat because a lot of their development comes in the main story. You get phenomenal moments like Junpei and Akihiko's awakenings, like stuff like that. But like Persona 3 Portable, one thing it did show, and also, you know, games like Persona 5 especially, though many people disagree, is that a character can have a main arc in the story and also have a separate but important arc in their social link. Those things don't contradict each other. You can have both.
And P3 does have both.
Yes.
With the girls.
Yes.
Like, so that, and like, and P3P does that with the guys. Like, I think it's very funny because I know like a big part of Junpei's social link in P3P Fantasy Root is a lot of like his relationship with his dad. That is brought up in one line in the last couple hours of P3.
Oh gosh, now I'm thinking about that stupid video Junpei on the phone.
I remember whenever I watched the P3 movies for the first time with my friend, I saw that bit and I died laughing. Yeah, to see him on the phone.
I think for me, not for the audience, but for me, it's funnier if we don't explain what I'm talking about, and the people who know what we're talking about have fun.
Oh, it's so funny. But yeah. So like male social links, which that of course gets into the question of, okay, does that mean they have to cut some social links to fit in? You know, at the very least, you kind of have... I think bare minimum, you have to fit in Junpei, Aki, and Ken.
Yeah.
Shinji and Koromaru, I can take it or leave it. One's a dog, the other guy dies. But, yeah, like, you know, if you do all 5, that's great. So would they have to cut social links? And if the answer is yes, that's fine, because half the P3 social links aren't very good.
Yeah. And the other half are phenomenal. That needs to be clarified very quickly. P3 has like some of the highest peaks of social links in the entire series, and some of the lowest. As Chihiro, it has Gourmet King.
Yeah, like you can cut some of those, and I don't think too many people will be upset. I think it'd be cool if they do cut them, you know, keep them in like cameo roles or something.
Sorry, I need to give a shout out that the one social link they've confirmed is Kenji. And they know their audience. Everyone's on board now. Like, I don't care. Like, all those people online who are saying, like, this remake looks bad, they're all bots, not real people. Kenji's in there. Like, who would be against this?
If they are going to cut social links, the fact they kept Kenji is
so funny. But, like, he's... like, granted, he's one of the most memorable in that game.
Like, I feel like if they wanted to keep, like, a tutorial social link, you could have just started with Junpei instead. It's not, like, you could do that.
No.
Kenji. Also, I guess side note before I forget in regards to social links, this is like, you know, there isn't much to elaborate on. Don't force me to do a romance.
Yeah.
Don't force me to cheat and do a romance if I want 100% the game, please.
Ooh, I am curious. This is a bit of a smaller note, but like we can go back to like the general gosh dang it, general social link talk after this. Yeah. Do you think reversals are coming back?
Ooh. I think it'd be cool if they did. I do like that mechanic. Okay. If they come back, don't do the reversal mechanic of, oh, you didn't talk to them for a month.
Yeah.
Fuck you, kid. Don't do that, because that just ruins, like, the point.
I think it is... I think it's really nice if you make an actively bad decision with the social link. That makes social links way more engaging.
Yeah, like,
really interesting.
Like, I remember there's a bit where, like, it's in Yukari's social link. I think, like, someone's, like, messing with her or, like, harassing her or something.
And you, like, offer to hug her?
Yeah, if you, like, go in to hug her, she, like, pushes you away and is like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, no, it's so good.
And, like, yeah, that actually makes sense. I'm sorry to the weebs who don't get it, but that actually makes sense that, yeah, she wouldn't want you to do that.
Yeah.
So, I think if they bring back reversals... Yeah, take out the dumb thing about reversals, which is, oh, you didn't talk to me for a week, or, oh, you talked to a different girl. Then, yeah, like, take that out, because that's dumb. But, like, yeah, actual reversals in the Confidant, if you, like, say the wrong thing, I think is a really cool idea.
For sure. But yeah, like, generally with social links, I feel like this could go really bad if not handled right, because, like, some people might get overloaded with it. I do wonder if, like, if they don't... This is, like, weirdly optimistic in a way, but also just really funny to me. What if they include all of the confidants from... Or, gosh, whatever. All the social links from original P3 and Portable. They just throw them all into one school. You don't have enough time to do them all. You actually do have to pick and choose who you're going to interact with. Meaning that... in a new game plus, it actually incentivizes experimenting with who you're interacting with, trying new people, seeing more of the game. That could be, for me, I would really like that. I know that's not for everyone, but yeah.
That could be neat. I think it would frustrate me personally. It could be neat, but that also does make me wonder, like, are there gonna be like 4 emperors? Or are they gonna do what Strikers did and just made up an Arcana for Zenkichi?
We're getting a whole new deck. We did actually get a couple new cards in Royal as well, so, like, you know, who knows?
But yeah, like, I think it'd be neat. Oh yeah, other thing with social links, please, like, I kind of get why it's like this, and I guess this extends into something I also want to talk about. Give me more than a month to do Aegis.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, gets into into one of my other points I wrote down. Changes to the main cast. So, I think Persona 3's main cast is really fucking good. Except for the aqua-haired one. So, okay. If you like Fuka, I get it. No. Okay. Fuka is a character with a lot of potential, and I know that because the movies are really good.
That's the... if I have one takeaway, like, really, for what I want from the P3 story, like, or for the P3 remake story, despite them not being perfect adaptations, because, yeah, for those who haven't watched it, my kind of feel about those movies is that they take most of the stuff that already works in original P3 and make it sort of take a backseat to really focus on the parts of P3 that, to me, I feel aren't handled optimally. So Ken gets a lot more, Fuka gets a lot more, Shinji gets a lot more, they do more with Aegis, like, stuff like that, like...
Yeah.
If you can take the best elements from those movies and really focus in on them and throw them into the main game, this game would be nearly perfect.
Yeah, like, because my thing with Fuka, I'm focusing on her because she's my least favorite Persona character, but, like, my thing with Fuka is, like, so much of her story is focused around a character who has 10 minutes of screen time. So I think giving Natsuki more screen time to actually interact with Fuka and give me an idea of why they're friends would be good. But even going beyond Fuka, I think giving Ken more interactions with Shinji would be nice to make his story feel more full and complete. I still think Ken is a great character and works really well, but he is very much like, he's not, he's almost there.
Yeah.
And then Aegis, for me, is a really good character that you have to play through the entire game and the epilogue to actually get to see all that.
Yeah.
Because Aegis gets introduced at the beach trip, and then what does she do until Ryoji's introduced?
She sits
basically
there.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, she does basically nothing other than just be a funny robot.
Mm.
So, like, I think giving, like, her a bit more time, not to simp for P5 any more than I already do, but I think taking some cues from the way Sophia was handled in Strikers, of, like, her gradually throughout the game, it wasn't the focus for a lot of the early game, but just, like, showing that, like, growth and her, like, kind of forming a bond with, like, these human people and all of that stuff. I think something similar to that could be really good for Aigis. To let her feel more complete for the whole game.
I guess because it's obligatory just to drop our little hot take of... I don't know if I'd inherently call her, like, overall better than Aigis. Maybe. Yeah.
She's red.
That's true. I think Sophia's overall arc throughout the game is a much more naturally handled version of what Aigis is going for.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is pacing based.
Yeah, a lot of it's pacing based, and also that Sophia's an oomphy.
True. She baby.
But yeah, like I think like for me, like, if you can, like, really improve on those 3 characters, then, like, I'm kind of set in that regard. Because I think everyone else in this game is, like, a 10 out of 10 character for the most part. Actually,
you mentioned him too, but yeah, like, speaking of the P3 movies as well, Ryoji, like, he's not bad in original P3, but, like, give him more. He had a lot in that movie. He's basically a ripoff of an Eva, like an Evangelion character, but I don't care. He's really good. Just do that.
Especially, like, just that homoerotic energy. Like, you gotta put it in the game.
Exactly,
like,
exactly.
They knit scarves together. No, yeah, but, like, I think doing a lot more with Ryoji, like, there is so much fun potential for his relationship with the protagonist, as seen in the movies. So I would love more Ryoji. Which, yeah, I guess talking about secondary characters now, can you, like, make Strega, like, a real thing?
Strega is one of the best concepts. It's not like a super crazy ambitious concept, but yeah, just having an enemy Persona team is one of the best concepts I've ever had for any of these games. And I wouldn't say it was completely botched, but it is really, really missing a lot of its potential.
So my thing with Strega, I know people think Strega is the worst thing about P3. I think Strega is fine. I think their motives are passively interesting. I think their past with, like, the Kirijo group and what happened to them is a really cool backstory. I think the way that they tie into the game's themes of sort of, like, nihilism and death is really interesting, but it doesn't all come together in the end. Chidori notwithstanding, Chidori's not Strega.
That's the thing, though, is, like, the most interesting things about Chidori, her being part of Strega, like, obviously that's involved in her arc, but most of the interesting things that happen with her have nothing to do with anything she does within Strega.
Yeah, no, the things people love about Chidori are her interactions with Junpei, and the way that they, like, talk and hang out, which, quick side note, I'm really happy Junpei's still ugly as fuck in this game.
He's just a silly guy. He's trying to get through high school. Leave him alone.
But yeah, so, like, definitely improve Strega. Either do something with Akutsuki or remove him from the game. I don't care.
I don't think they should remove him.
I think it'd be funny if they remove
him. It would be funny if they remove him, yeah. But, like, just do something. Like, he's a character who's kind of a necessary evil. Like he needs to exist, in a sense, for this narrative. I get it. But, just make him, like, any level of interesting, please.
Akutsuki would be so much more inherently interesting if they did what I thought they were going to do, which was pull the twist that he was actually the secret leader of Strega.
Yeah, that makes infinitely more sense. And, yeah, like, so makes his it ties the motivations of the characters so much better together.
Yeah, so, like, I think if they are going to do something with it, which is also really funny because Akutsuki already kind of looks like Takaya.
He looks just like Takaya. They look so friggin' similar.
Which is so funny. But yeah, so, like, I think, if they are going to do, like, a drastic change like that, please.
Yeah.
But yes, like, I would love just, like, I would love just, like, fixing stuff like that.
Yeah, character-wise, I think that's the majority of it. Just make good, please. Keep the good characters good. Keep Yukari good. I like her.
Oh yeah, another like, one sentence point. Remove the weird shit. And it's Atlas, so
yeah.
it's Atlas, so that's a coin flip. But just like the transphobic joke,
Yeah,
the
no.
fucking get rid of that. Get rid of fucking make Toriumi less creepy. Just stuff like that.
Keep Kenji just as he is, though.
Oh yeah, like let my man spread his wings.
Let him be a fail king.
But yeah, like, just nothing else really to say there.
This game looks neat.
Gameplay
wise, it looks like Persona 3.
It does.
It's just Persona 3 nice graphics, party control.
So, do you think this game will have Baton Pass?
Ooh, I'm leaning towards no. Which because personally, I think Baton Pass is like the best change they ever made to Persona. I like original P3 and like P4 combat, but like to me, it's always felt like a lesser version of press turn.
Yeah, it's always been diet press turn to me.
Baton Pass gives it a much different dynamic.
Yeah, Baton Pass makes it its own thing. So if they don't do Baton Pass for Persona 3, I hope they give it some kind of gimmick. Beyond just being the one more system.
Listen, because I can tolerate a basic one more system. I can deal with it, but nothing about that excites me. I'm not dying to do like basic P3 combat, like just as is. Like it's fine. It gets the job done. But like P5 combat, I love playing through that. SMT5, I love it. Even like if we're talking about games before that, like Nocturne has really, really fun combat.
I am a Soul Hackers 2 enjoyer.
I also really like the combat of that game. Like, it's not perfect, but it's really well balanced. It's really fun. It has a very different, engaging combat style. So just something to P3.
If they aren't doing that, make Tartarus interesting. That's the world's coldest P3 take. But I would love just like either like actually interesting side quests in Tartarus, but giving it like a bit more variation of like what you're actually doing in there.
There is like a big old quest button on the pause menu. So
yeah, so
maybe
it's like Elizabeth's quest, but I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so I think like giving Tartarus a bit more to it. I also would really like, and if you don't add more to Tartarus, just let me drive a car. That made Mementos infinitely better. But I was also gonna say, I really hope that they add like little mini dungeons for each full moon.
Yeah.
Because the first like 2 full moons did that, and then they gave up. So please bring that back, because that like made that made those first 2 encounters really memorable, like in the Love Hotel and on the train. Those are awesome.
Yeah, because I think like Tartarus as it is, it works in like small doses. It's fun. It's good. I like it. But
it works in small doses, but you cannot play it in small doses.
Yeah, it is a friggin' trek. So giving us like Tartarus, then transitioning into like a dedicated, specifically designed dungeon, something similar to like, like you said at the end of the full moons in the first sections, or heaven forbid I say it, Persona 5 Palaces. It would be really fun, really memorable. It would make each section of the game feel like something to really strive for, to be excited for, rather than just we're getting through the story.
And they don't even have to be like that long or grand. Like the train segment is like 3 battles and then a boss.
Yeah, but it's something. It gets you excited for what's to come, rather than just like, even if you enjoy Tartarus, it's just Tartarus.
It also does come with the nice added bonus, which is if you really have to, you can grind.
Yeah.
Instead of having to reset a week. So, I guess while we're on the topic of gameplay, shuffle time.
Wahoo!
So, yeah, something I noticed watching this trailer again, I was like, oh, those aren't demons, those are Persona 3 and 4 shadows.
Yep, which fine.
Like, okay. Like, I still find it so weird that Persona 3 ditched demon negotiation. I get, like, it's not as perfect of a thematic fit as it is in P5, but you can do it.
Yeah, I guess if they're trying to be true to P3, just having the shadows fine, whatever. I don't like Shuffle Time as much. I think it's... I think just direct SMT style demon negotiation, P5 style, yeah, like, way more fun.
Yeah, P5 style in particular I think works better, because like that simple style works better for what Persona is, as opposed to the fucking Who Wants to Be a Millionaire playing Nocturne. But, like, I wish they did that. If you are going to bring back Shuffle Time in particular, can you do P4's Shuffle Time? Because that's a lot cooler than P3's.
Yeah.
P3 Shuffle Time is lame as hell.
We'll see. We don't have much to gauge on it. It's just that's a point of caution.
This is just something I thought of. They didn't even show Shuffle Time, but like
also,
there's a decent chance it's in this game.
It would be nice if there was more variation to shadow designs if we are stuck with shadows.
Yeah. I mean, like, I like those shadow designs, but there's a lot of recolors.
Yep. So, like, just a bit more variation. That's cool. That's fine. If you do what you gotta do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, like, graphics, gameplay, characters, music. Woo!
Oh yeah, I forgot to bring that up about P5T, but fucking Lin bangers.
Yeah, we have Lin bangers and Lotus Juice bangers here.
Yep. Like, and we're gonna be getting some Yumi bangers.
Which actually
yeah.
we don't know who's doing the soundtrack, because Meguro is gone. He said he's open to coming back for like hire, but he's not working there anymore.
Yeah, he didn't do Strikers. For those who don't know.
Well, he generally doesn't do the spin-offs, but that's what interests me here, because this is essentially a mainline title.
And also, like, this new song, I can, if you told me this was like a song from P3 I forgot, I would believe you.
That's the thing. The first time I listened, like, I was like, I don't recognize what song this is, but it's really good. And I had to ask after. I was like, was that new?
Yeah, like, so it's exactly the same. It is phenomenal. Like, it is exactly that same style. They nailed it. And I think that's great. So, if that is not Meguro, props to them for fucking, I assume, studying the soundtrack, like, front to back. And just, like, seeing everything about it. Because, like, yeah, they nailed it. Whoever's doing it nailed the style.
That's the thing, like, I have a lot of faith in this game. Like, people are stressing it. But, like, for a game that I specifically was saying very often I didn't want and I didn't think we need, I am really excited for it, and I think it looks great. And I think it has a lot of potential that... I know people get pissy about Modern Atlas for a lot of things. I think all the major titles they've released in the last who knows how many years have all been great. So...
Dancing was fine.
Dancing was a game that existed. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about RPGs.
But yeah, like, so, music is gonna be banger. Before we get to, we'll probably be the last to be talking about, which is Femc and the Answer. Two like random side notes. One, please keep this game feeling just as 2000s as it always had. I need this to be a period piece.
Oh, I agree. Just...
If Yukari is not wearing bell bottoms, what's the point?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Actually,
I've seen characters with flip phones, so...
Okay. I do want to bring up a small note that I find really funny, and I mentioned to you before, but I kind of want to get your expanded thoughts on this.
Okay.
So, you kind of mentioned Persona 3 Remake has been leaked countless times.
Yes.
There was a very big leak, like a couple months back.
That was not real.
Yeah, I'm glad you agree with me. I still don't think that leak was real. I don't think that leak, even if it was like a proof of concept, like test, whatever, that leak did not look real.
Yeah, if you want to put that on screen, if you're...
Yeah, I'll throw that up, but
like, just like the red Persona summoning effect, I'm like, that's not what Persona looks like.
Like, no evoker, the like two shots of like summoning it and then shooting an arrow, like, clearly are back to back. Like, you can still see the particles floating around. Like, she's using Heroward's bow. Yukari's model looks a little odd, even though this game does look like they're using the P3 dancing models.
It also, like, it also looks nothing like this trailer.
No, like, nothing. Again, even if it's a proof of concept, there are so many little things that look off. And even, like, the Sonic gameplay that came, like, with... Because there were 3 things together in this leak. The Sonic gameplay looks... fairly convincing. I'm still skeptical of it, but I understand it's the most believable part of that whole leak. The Jet Set Radio
footage.
It's so bad. It looks so fake. It's so bad.
Yeah, like, it's so funny. So yeah, like, and also, well, there's a good chance we'll never have proof to contradict what we're saying.
Nope.
So who knows?
So, in that case, I'm leaving the final word here that we're correct, because no one's gonna prove us wrong.
So yeah.
So dumb.
Keep the game very 2000s.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is something I wanted to mention about the story real quick about like changing it. This is something I noticed about Persona 3, which is I feel this is not something that everyone's going to care about. It really depends on how much do you consider the mute protagonist to be an actual character. How much do you self-insert really, and that really varies from person to person. I've seen that firsthand a lot with how people talk about these games. Something I felt with Persona 3 more than 4 and 5 is that as the protagonist, I felt very disconnected from the events of the game. In part because the game a lot of times would be like, alright, we're gonna cut away now to this amazing Second Awakening, one of the best things you've ever seen in fiction, and then we're gonna go back to you in your dorm room who had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying the protagonist has to be present for everything. You can argue that P4 and 5 lean into that too much. But the protagonist, in a way, feels... as the protagonist, I felt very disconnected from my team at times.
Which, granted, one thing kind of on that note that I actually really do like about P3, but it kind of causes that to get worsened in the long run, is... especially at the very, very start of the game, no one likes you. You don't really like anyone. The only person batting for you is Yukari. So you feel very alienated from everyone else but her, and she's basically, like, on protect mode with you. And I think that's really cool, and, like, one of the most unique dynamics they've ever had in any of these games.
Yeah.
It just... if you don't make the transition out of that more natural and get the character feeling more connected to the rest of C's, because one of the coolest things about P3 is you don't start as friends. You are adventuring together, but you are very much part of a group.
You have a job.
Yes, this is your job, and you are going with your coworkers. But gradually, you start to befriend them, and it makes the connections feel very natural and very real. But you need to, again, it always comes back to pacing. You need to pace that well and display in a way that makes the connections by the end feel integral enough that the ending has that effect. So once you're dying, it's not just like, well, they're watching. Yes, they're here.
And that is also exacerbated by the fact that half the party members don't have social links, and the ones that do, you can't do until you max out your stats.
Yeah, like, that's the thing. Like, Junpei at the end of original P3 feels like a phenomenal character. Akihiko is a fantastic character, but they don't feel nearly as much like your friend compared to a lot of other members of the group.
Specifically for a game that is so heavily a social sim, I do think that's an issue.
Yeah.
Which I will add, yeah, because, like, this is, like, a weird way of me proving my point. But, like, for Persona 5, I see so much fan art of Joker with every character. I've seen fan art of him, you know, with Ryuji, Yusuke, On, Haru, whatever.
Have you ever seen art of Minato, Makoto, whatever, with Akihiko or Ken?
I was literally going to say Akihiko, yeah. Like, I'm trying to think of the last time I saw art, like, that wasn't, like, a big group shot. That was like, hey, here's fan art I drew of Minato and Akihiko, like, vibing together.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really see that because, yeah, like I said, Minato feels very disconnected from pretty much everyone except Yukari, Aigis, and to a lesser extent Junpei. Which, you know, I would like if they really tried to make, not necessarily pull the team together more, because the team does feel together. It just doesn't include you. Yeah. So well, I think pulling your character more into the fold, I think, would be a great change.
Well, that's one of the funny things that, like, I see people bring up this quote when criticizing, like, Persona 3 or, like, you know, quote-unquote modern Persona as a whole. But there's that whole quote from, like, the director for P3 when being like, yeah, when writing this game, I realized, you know, and he's saying, like, mostly jokingly, but still, like, yeah, I didn't know how to talk to girls. I don't really talk to girls at all, haha. And it's like, that's really funny, because in Persona 3, you, like, only are talking to girls for the most part. It's just all whamming.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like, actually balancing that out to give your relationships a broader connection and tie into, you know, a game about while you're alive making those connections and that being what makes life valuable. let me make connections with the characters in my party.
Yeah, and I think that would then make the ending of the game where you sacrifice yourself for said friends feel even more impactful than it already does, and the ending of this game is already an 11 out of 10.
Exactly.
So, yeah, like, I think if you can improve on that, then, like, that will make this incredible. Anything left to say before we talk about the femc in the room?
Do we have to talk about the femc in the room?
I think we should at least mention it, because that's what everyone's talking about.
Then nothing else to say.
Okay, so, I do not have a big horse in this race one way or the other. If they put femc in the game, that is awesome. If they don't, which is what I'm assuming, I understand why. That's basically a second RPG.
I am completely passive on if femc gets in. Now, okay, granted, I don't think them adding femc to this game would be nearly as much effort as with something like original P3, because, which is actually something we hadn't mentioned, as far as we can tell, there aren't, like, 2D anime cutscenes in this game. They seem like they're in-engine, which I know worries a lot of people. I will cite back to Soul Hackers 2 and SMT5. Those games' cutscenes... Oh, yeah, and Persona 5 when it does have CG cutscenes. Because those cutscenes are all gorgeous. They are all so beautiful. And so
incredibly well directed. I think you could absolutely make an argument that the CG cutscenes in P5 are generally better than the 2D ones.
Yeah.
Atlas knows how to direct a 3D cutscene. Like, I know I said earlier that, like, one of the best scenes in all of Persona is that awakening. And yeah, maybe a 3D one wouldn't live up to that. But regardless, like, I don't doubt that they could really keep that impact and that feeling. Like, even, like, the glimpses we see, like, the way the lighting is done, the way that, like, those camera angles, like, that awakening still looks really cool. So, yeah, that is, like, the one thing that makes me think that is a possible reason why they're doing CG cutscenes, though, is because that would let them very easily implement femc into those cutscenes.
Yeah. And again,
if it will, but yeah.
And again, if we have my psychotic idea in there, they wouldn't have to worry about exclusive social links if everyone is there and that's cool. Which, again, is not something I'm expecting, but it would be really funny. So, it's still a possibility. I don't think it'll happen, but it could. And I don't mind either way.
Mind either way. If you do put femc in the game, ditto a lot of the things we've said about fixes. Don't bring characters back to life. That also applies to Chidori, by the way.
You know what? Yeah, if you bring femc back, please, like, redo her impact on many of those social links, whether it be Shinji surviving by the skin of his pocket watch, or any conversation with Ken. No, thank you.
It's not just Ken. Why
also,
did
Mike.
Also, like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically just like going back to what I said, remove the weird shit.
Yeah, please, please let this be a normal school trip.
If Atlas Japan won't do it, you know, Atlas West, translate this game for us well.
Yep.
And fix it. So yeah, there's that, and then the other Persona 3 remake edition to discuss is the answer. I think the answer will be in this game.
Me too. I mean, I love people like immediately assuming it's not. When, like, the furthest we've seen into this game is, like, 3 months in.
This trailer didn't show us Mitsuru.
Yeah, like we saw 3 party members. We're good. Like,
yeah,
it could be in there. Because my kind of theory with it is handling it like a proper epilogue and just kind of revamping how it's done. Which I think that'll feel really effective if it's not, like... You know, the answer...
The side mode.
Yeah, like, the answer was made essentially as its own game. Like, it was a separate game in Japan. And then released here with Fez. Like, it's basically just a compilation of, like, a main game and a side game.
Yeah.
Actually making it so, like, it is a dedicated epilogue and really refining it to feel like the rest of the game. Maybe not, you know, like, super socializing it. They don't have the time for that. But making it feel... refined enough and paced well enough to work as that finale would be really cool. And I think, like, that is an important enough part of that story and something that, like, Atlas clearly does care about to an extent that I think it will be there.
I will say, an idea I had for the answer that I think they could add to make it really cool is I think the answer could be a really good excuse for them to give this game Third Awakenings.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my things with the answer, make it more inherently interesting, which that ties into the whole make Tartarus better thing. Do anything with Metis.
Please.
At all.
Shout outs to all the Metis fans who have manifested themselves in chat, because no one talks about her until she is mentioned in a negative light.
Yeah, so yeah. Yeah, Metis. Honestly, like, other than Metis and, like, doing a bit more with Fuka in, like, the answer, I don't really want them to rewrite much about the answer. Like,
it's
I know
a really well-told story.
I know people hate Yukari in the answer, and that's because people don't understand character nuance.
Like,
so
that is another one of the coolest things about P3 is, like, it handles inter-party conflicts really, really well. And the answer is a final extension of that in a realistic way. Like, even if Mitsuru doesn't inherently agree with what Yukari's doing, that relationship they've built over the game and her deciding to side with Yukari is really, really effective. Even if you don't, like, love the answer for gameplay reasons or certain story reasons, there is so much amazing stuff in there that they could easily twist into something, like, as a fantastic capping off point for this game.
And yeah, like, I just love what the answer, like, the different, I can, other than Fuka, I can understand every single character's stance on the decision that they make, why they choose to take the sides they do, why they all kind of split up, like Akihiko and Ken's thing about, like, the way they've come to, like, value life, Junpei's more neutral stance about, like, the way he feels given what happened to Todori, Yukari just wanting her friend/love interest back. Like, it's so interesting. It's so cool.
I have a silly little idea right now.
Oh, I bet you do.
Hear me out, because I think you'll kind of be on board with this.
Okay.
So, again, spoilers for Persona 5 Royal if you guys haven't, caught on that we're spoiling everything.
Put Maruki in the game.
I'm kind of gone. So obviously that game, to get its final ending, it's required, like, to actually get to third semester, you have to max out Maruki, and then you get little bonuses if you maxed out Sumi or maxed out Akechi.
Yes.
What if the answer is locked behind maxing out Yukari and Aigis?
Yeah, I think that could be.
That would be actually a really cool way to add that in while still making the ending, like, stick as an ending, like the original ending, but giving you that bonus that feels like your choices and the bonds you made reflected back in, like, an effective way.
That could be really cool. My main thing with that is if you do that, I think you do have to do something from a game design perspective. You have to give me you have to give me a clear incentive to focus on, because Maruki had a clear incentive of he was the only social link that went away, or at least that was
that game warned you very, like, many times, which I love how naturally it's done. Like, for how much it's in your face, like, a lot of people, they're like, what do you mean the game was telling me to hang out with them? I'm like, it tells you, like, 3 times, hey, if you don't start hanging out with me now, I'll be gone. No other social link has mentioned this. It's probably important.
Yeah. So, there's that. So yeah, I think from a game design perspective, I think you might have to find some way to do that with Yukari and Aigis if you do something like that, or even just one of them. But, regardless, it'd be cool.
Yeah.
It'd be a neat way of doing that.
Persona.
I guess last thing to mention is DLC for P3. I'll give you $60 to dress up as Joker and listen to The Last Surprise. I'm your lapdog, Atlas. I get it.
Yep. I'm also gonna do my mini rant here though, because, like, Atlas is trigger happy with this stuff. If you make a Joker outfit and it is pre-order exclusive or digital deluxe exclusive or whatever, I will beat you to death.
I agree.
Oh man. I guess rolling back, because we also didn't mention it, like, P5T getting DLC possibly, like, please?
I mean, yeah, I mentioned that with, like...
Okay, I'm just delusional then.
We've been talking for 2 hours.
It has been a hot minute. I'm tired, I'm excited. Friggin', it's the year of Persona. It was supposed to be the year of Persona, like, for 2 years straight before this, and it wasn't. But
we did it.
We
finally made it.
Finally, Persona real.
It's gonna be what you know, they were uploaded by Atlas. What if these trailers are fake? What if this was all a ruse?
What if we get to the Xbox show in a couple days, and it's just that fake clip of Yukari and nothing else, and also Jet Set? I
like,
would lose my mind.
And then they're like Persona 3 Portable now, more HD.
Gosh dang it! It's so.
Persona 3 FES now coming to Steam.
Gosh dang it! Oh man, I'm optimistic. Not about that, but
no, don't do that.
I don't know. It would be really funny if we record this whole thing and it's completely obsolete, but we will see.
I'm very excited for these video games, and I didn't think I'd be this excited. Like, I knew I would be this excited for Persona 5 anything. I didn't think I'd be this excited for a Persona 3 remake.
We got like an hour and a half, 2-hour conversation about just these trailers. And these are like minute-long trailers.
Oh yeah, by the way, Atlas, make a second battle theme for P3, I had to mention that.
Yes, or give like Mass Destruction a second verse, because I love Mass Destruction, but
that song's like a minute long.
Yep, and I like myself a baby, 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 baby. The song. But maybe don't. Maybe don't like loop it over and over mid battle. I'm fine with it being at the start, but like, just make the song longer.
Yep.
I like Persona.
What if the secondary battle theme is Femc's battle theme, but she's not playable?
That would be so funny.
Just have Yumi sing it.
And we'll leave it there. But yeah, leave down below what are your thoughts on Persona and Persona and Persona and Persona.